So let us discuss 12th May 2015 newspaper. The major news today is acquittal of former Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu J. Jayalalitha in disproportionate assets case. Now if you can go back into the background of the story. So last year Justice Michael D. Kunha, he has imposed the total of 4 years of imprisonment plus 100 crores of penalty on Jayalalitha with regard to disproportionate assets case. So the legal this thing is the section 13(1)(e) of Prevention of Corruption Act 1988. It states that if any public servant is involved with corruption or is he or she possessing the assets disproportionate to his or her known sources of income, then they are punishable for their misconduct. So the known sources of income means the legal known sources of income. Now, and second thing is, there is section 8 of Representation of People Act. A person who is convicted under Prevention of Corruption Act, then he is disqualified for 6 years from the date of his or her conviction plus the period of sentence. As Jayalalitha is convicted for 4 years, 4 plus 6 years total 10 years she will be disqualified to contest the elections. Because of this, as she disqualified as an MLA, she is also disqualified to continue as the Chief Minister. Finally, she has to resign from his office of the Chief Minister, from her office of Chief Minister. So this is what is the case in nutshell. Now from this case, the judge has acquitted, the Karnataka High Court has acquitted Ms. Jayalalitha from these charges. The reason for the acquittal of these charges is there is a Supreme Court judgment which says that if there is a 10% of excess of the assets disproportionate to the income cannot be seen as a crime over here. And what the judge said is it falls in 8.2% of more than the known sources of income, then she will do not automatically come under the Prevention of Corruption Act, and she was acquitted from the case. So it means it provides her an opportunity to contest the MLA for the position of MLA immediately, and also she can take up the position of Chief Minister. So these are the things. And the second thing is the money bill, black money bill is passed in the Lok Sabha. So what this black money bill talks about, that is undisclosed foreign assets and undisclosed foreign income and assets imposition of tax bill 2015. So under this, any Indian citizen, if he holds an account or source of an income in the foreign country, he has to disclose it to the government. If he fails to do so, then he may attract the penal provisions. Now, what is the major opposition to this is, this bill is not talking about the curtailment of the generation of the black money. It is only talking about recollecting of the black money, but not curtailing the black money. And the second thing is, it can be misused by the government and tax officials to harass the innocent citizens. The third thing is, the NRIs who are going to be the major source of investment to India, how they will react to such a bill is one thing which wonders the government. So these are the few things. And next is, the President Pranab Mukherjee has concluded his visit to Russia. So to participate in the Victory Day parade, he has visited Russia. And this participation of India, when the West has boycotted the Russia on Ukraine issue, has resonated well with the Russians. And the second thing is, recently Russia is showing some inclination with Pakistan, and the sale of Mi-35 helicopters is a sign of this. In this connect, the President Pranab Mukherjee has clearly said, India and Russia's friendship is very deep and it is not disturbed by the transient political developments. So, and the second thing is, the Minister of Defense of Russia also clearly said that Russia will not do anything detrimental to the interests of India. So Mi-35s are the transport helicopters, that's why they are being transferred to the Pakistan or sold to the Pakistan. And another thing is the growing Russia-China closeness and deepening of their strategic partnership is also kind of a threat to the India's strategic interests. So though the Pranab Mukherjee did not discuss this issue, these we shall be concerned about. And one more thing is the trade, it got stagnated. For that matter, it got decreased to $6 billion from the previously existing 11 billion. Now this trade has to be raised to greater than 30 billion. That is what is the target with Russia. So this is what is President Pranab Mukherjee was talking about. And next is, there is an important article with regard to China by the former National Security Advisor. So what is this article talks about? Now, so it's a continuation of the yesterday's articles by Sanjay Baru. Now if you see that, so there are certain diplomatic jargon was also used by Mr. Narayanan. Let us see what it is. If you carefully observe, so Mr. Modi is reciprocating the President Xi Jinping's trip to India, which has happened in September 2014. Now the visit which is happening now is taking place when China is unveiling its strategic vision based on Sun Tzu's principle of winning without fighting. So entire China's diplomatic architecture revolves around two people. One is Sun Tzu and Confucius, two great writers of the China. So the Sun Tzu's main theory is winning without fighting. What does that mean? The China has to liberally reward the nations that are friends to it and eliminate the countries that come in between, or exclude the nations that stand in its way of development. That is what is the Sun Tzu's theory. So in this, the president existing Xi Jinping's government is trying to revisit the foreign policy around the Sun Tzu's theory. So in this case, in round with this, China is building something called Security Alliance in Asia. So the Security Alliance is to counterbalance the America's policy of pivot to Asia. So in this context, in Wen Jiabao and Hu Jintao era, India and China drafted something called Strategic Vision for 21st century. But the present government is more and more showing assertiveness in the foreign relations. So this is what we need to be careful about. So the previous government talked about the peaceful rise of China, and they talked about the shared vision, and it gave a relatively benign view of the China to the India. But however, if we see in the present day, the growing Chinese assertiveness, it is also leading to the rise in the resistance to counterbalance the power of the China. Whenever there is an aggrandizement or greater assertiveness of one single power, then alliances grow counter to this particular power. So this particular thing is called strategic autism. So the China's economic and military rise is producing a seemingly paradoxical decline in its diplomatic influence. It means that one way the military rise is also leading or giving a threat to its neighbors. So especially if you see most of the Southeast Asian countries, they are seeing China as a threat over here. In this context, alternate balances are bound to rise, which is not good for the China in its in the long term. So for that, describing this, Westerners are using the word strategic autism. The China is kind of showing a strategic autism with regard to its foreign relations. So it is also a deviant from Deng's view. Mr. Deng has said, Deng Xiaoping, what he said is, to hide our capabilities and bide our time and never claim the leadership. Grow as invisibles. You are supposed to grow as in such a way that no one shall feel you as a threat. That's what has been put in beautiful terms by Deng. So what Deng, the modernizer of China, Deng says is to hide our capabilities, to bide our time and never claim leadership. So the China is also under Mr. Xi is trying to move away from this. So in these circumstances, what Narayanan says is India's strategy has to be based on pragmatism in its interaction with China, and it has to take the following things into consideration. Now if you see, the first one is he talks about defense. For the past 28 years, I think, 26th year in a consequence, the defense budget of the China is growing in double-digit number. Now it stands around $141.5 billion, and also there is a massive modernization program and new state-of-the-art destructive equipment is with China. So this military strength of China is something which is worrying to India. And next is the outreach program. So recently we have seen the China's outreach to Pakistan with the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and the new Development Bank for Asia, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. All this shows that China is trying to redefine the international financial architecture. And One Belt, One Road initiative, and also the maritime, the so-called as maritime Silk Road, all these concepts, they are kind of bringing the China to the forefront of the relationships over here, and also it may lead to encirclement of the India. So in this context, the China is trying to counterbalance the US pivot to Asia. And the third thing is, the more and more China is engaging with public diplomacy by creating something called as Confucius Centers. Even in India, almost 15 of these Confucius Centers are working. And the transformation of China and Russia relationship. So they have, the China and Russia, they wanted to reconnect themselves with a strategic partnership or deepen their strategic partnership which is already existing. And already in West Asia, China has backed Iran, and it has significantly increased the presence of China in West Asia, which China is going to gain in this particular front. And it is going to undermine the long-term work done by India to gain the confidence in West Asia. And you know that the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is redefining the economic cooperation in this area, and also access to Gwadar port to China is providing a new access point to Indian Ocean. So this is another concern to India. So these are the things we need to understand. What is the essence of article? The China is becoming more assertive and is moving away from its benign view, and it is posing itself as an assertive rising power. It wants to convert its power into influence in Asia. In this context, India has to take a pragmatic view of its relations with China. So in this perspective, so the China's defense posture, the outreach programs of China, and public diplomacy of China, growing Russia-China relationships, increasing interaction of China with Iran in West Asia, all these have to be taken into consideration. That is what is the article talks about. Now yesterday there was an article by Mr. Sanjay Baru. Let us see this. What the Sanjay Baru says is, so India and China, they are having a huge trust deficit since 1962. From this onwards, every move of India in China and every move of China in India, or both of them, suffer from some prejudices. In spite of increasing people-to-people contacts and also business-to-business contacts, the institutional and professional interaction is still low among India and China. And the next is, in spite of all these things, the China's excellent business economic growth provides for the new opportunities, and also it has increased its interaction with the Western world. So in this, a famous statement is, India is a open country with a closed mind. China is a closed country with an open mind that affects the economic, relative economic possibilities and opportunities in both the economies of the India and China. Now added to that, but on Indian point of view, the political stability, the flexibility in its diplomacy, and growing China's assertiveness in neighborhood, it has made many countries to take a benign view with regard to the India's rise. So, the China's rise is more seen as a danger to their sovereignty, but India's rise is taken as a benign view by many of these countries over here. But however, if you can see, the Deng during Rajiv Gandhi visit, he has said that this century belongs to Asia, can belong to Asia if China and India can work together. But if you see the present stand of China, it is more talking about the 21st century being Chinese century. It means that if the China is really interested in creating a multipolar world, then China has to closely work with the India towards a common vision and building out a century for China and India. Or to build the Asian century, both these nations, powerful nations in Asia, has to cooperate with each other. This is what is being said over here. Next article is soft power on Modi's China's visit. Now, already we know that Prime Minister Modi is interacting with the people of China by leveraging the Chinese social media, that is Weibo. And added to that, the Bollywood and yoga, they are going to be central to the India soft power strategy. The PK, the movie starring Amir Khan, is to be released into China. And added to that, so there is a proposal to make a movie on Huan Sang's life story. And Prime Minister Modi is also about to visit the Wild Goose Pagoda, from where the epic journey of Huan Sang has started to India. So this is what is the soft diplomacy. So, and added to that, there are a lot of cultural connections between India and China, and even the Chinese movies and Indian movies are going to work together through MOUs to make a movie on Huan Sang's visit to India, travelogue to India. So this is about the soft diplomacy.